Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. My dad was arrested at 6 a.m., and by dinner, his boss was living in our house, using Dad's coffee mug and calling me kiddo. It happened so fast, like someone had flipped our lives upside down in a single breath. 1 minute, I was asleep in my room. The next, I heard shouting and boots pounding up the stairs. I crept to the hallway just in time to see the FBI dragging Dad out of the house in his Spider-Man pajamas. His hands were cuffed behind his back, and his face was pale with confusion. "Jacqueline," he shouted when he saw me, but one of the agents shoved him forward. "Let me hug her," he pleaded, trying to stop. "Keep moving, sir," the agent said coldly, like Dad wasn't even human. "I'm innocent," Dad shouted again, and that was the last I heard before the door slammed behind them. Downstairs, Mom had collapsed on the lawn, sobbing uncontrollably. She kept screaming his name, pounding her fists against the ground like it might change something. Even at 14, I knew something was wrong. The way they refused to let him say goodbye, the way no one would look at him, like they already knew he was guilty. But he wasn't. He couldn't be. Within 48 hours, Raymond showed up. Mom's boss from the accounting firm where Dad had worked for 15 years. He rang the doorbell holding 2 grocery bags and wearing this tight-lipped, concerned expression, like he'd practiced it in the mirror. "Maya," he said gently, stepping inside before she even invited him. "You can't go through this alone." Mom looked dazed. Her eyes were hollow, and she didn't say a word as he walked in, already heading toward the kitchen like he knew the layout. Maybe he did. Maybe he'd been here before. I didn't know then. I just stood at the top of the stairs, gripping the banisters so tightly. When Raymond announced that he'd be staying in our guest room, Mom didn't argue. She just nodded, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold everything in. He already had 3 suitcases in the trunk of his car, like he'd been planning this moment for weeks. That first night, I sat across from him at dinner. Raymond in Dad's chair. Raymond using Dad's coffee mug. The one with the chip on the handle and the faded words that said, "World's okayest accountant." He smiled across the table at me. "Want me to cut that up for you, kiddo?" he asked, reaching for my plate. I pulled it away before he could touch it. "I'm not 5. He chuckled like I was being cute, not furious. "Suit yourself." And then he said it again, "Kiddo." Dad never called me that. Never. It made my skin crawl every time Raymond said it, like he was trying to wear my dad's skin, one word at a time. But for months, I played along. What else could I do? Mom said we needed to be grateful. That Raymond was helping us. That we were lucky to have him. So I helped Raymond box up Dad's things. I folded his shirts, packed up the books on his nightstand, even peeled the dinosaur post-it notes off the mirror. Notes Dad used to leave me in my lunchbox. "Roar means I love you" and "dinosaur." I kept every single one in a shoebox under my bed. I served Raymond dinner. I said thank you when he brought home takeout. I sat in the passenger seat of his car while he cheered for me at my soccer games. Raymond stood where Dad used to stand at my soccer games, right on the sidelines near the benches, but he was always glued to his phone. He'd look up just long enough to fake a smile or give a slow clap. Then his head would drop back down, thumbs flying across the screen. It was like he wanted points for showing up, even if he didn't care. He never remembered whether I played offense or defense. One game, he yelled, "Get the ball, Jacqueline," when I wasn't even on the field. When I got my period for the first time, I was alone in the school bathroom with toilet paper wadded in my underwear. I texted Mom for help, but she didn't answer. She was at another lawyer meeting, with Raymond, of course. When the nightmares started, images of Dad crying in some tiny, filthy prison cell, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, gasping. I told Mom once, but she barely looked up from her laptop. Raymond's idea of comfort? He handed me a brand new laptop the next day like that would fix everything. "Thought you could use something better for school," he said casually, sliding the box across the table like he was doing me a favor. I wrote Dad letters in secret. Long ones. Pages and pages. I'd tuck them between my textbooks in my closet, too afraid to mail them. At night, I still set his place at the dinner table. Fork, knife, napkin, just like he used to have it. When Raymond worked late, I'd sneak into Dad's old college hoodie, the navy blue one with the faded school crest. It swallowed me whole, sleeves hanging past my hands, but it felt like armor. Mom said it was morbid. "You can't keep doing this, Jacqueline," she muttered once when she saw me wearing it. "It's not healthy." But sometimes, if I buried my face in the collar, I could still smell him. His cologne. A trace of home. Then came Dad's birthday, his first in prison. I saved my allowance for 3 months. I filled out all the visitation forms myself, printed them out, even highlighted the bus routes in yellow. I had it all ready. "Mom," I said one night in the kitchen, trying to sound casual even though my hands were shaking. Can we go visit Dad this weekend? It's his birthday. Before she could even respond, Raymond spoke from across the room. He didn't even look up from his tablet. That weekend won't work, he said. I've got the Henderson client dinner. I need my family there. It's important for my promotion. I looked to Mom, waiting, hoping, but she just nodded. Raymond's right, honey. That promotion means college tuition. Your father would understand. My stomach turned. He wouldn't understand. I snapped. He's innocent. That did it. Raymond slammed his hand on the counter and glared at me. Innocent men don't have offshore accounts in the Caymans, he said. Stop living in fantasy land. That night, Mom took the envelope with my saved-up bus money. She said it was for my own good. You'll thank me someday, she said, not meeting my eyes. I heard her crying later in her bedroom. I waited. I thought maybe she'd come in and hand me the money back, or at least say sorry. But she didn't. So I grabbed my backpack, filled it with the basics, and tried to hitchhike. I made it about 50 miles before the state police picked me up at a gas station at 2 in the morning. One of the officers bought me a hot chocolate and asked why I ran away. I said I didn't. I just wanted to see my dad. After that, Raymond convinced Mom I needed therapy. He told her I had delusions, obsessive fixations, he called them. He installed tracking apps on my phone, blocked numbers, checked my messages. 3 weeks later, everything changed. Raymond came home completely wasted after some office party. I found him in Dad's study, swaying in the doorway, holding Dad's old wristwatch. His tie was crooked, and his eyes were glassy. Your father, he muttered, gripping the watch tightly. Always so damn righteous, wearing his wire to the office, like some kind of hero. I had to rip it off of myself that night. Raymond had passed out in Dad's chair, the watch clutched in his hand like a trophy. I stood there, staring, confused. What wire? What was he talking about? Dad hadn't been wearing any kind of wire when they arrested him. I remembered every detail of that horrible morning. His Spider-Man pajamas. The way they forced him out the door without a goodbye. But no wire. And his watch, that watch, had never appeared on the evidence list. I remembered because I checked. Obsessively. It was like it had vanished. Raymond. Mom's voice floated down from upstairs. Is he okay? I froze. Yeah. I called back, forcing calm into my voice. He just passed out. She didn't say anything else. A minute later, I heard her door close. I waited. Then I searched. Every drawer. Every cabinet. Every coat pocket. Nothing. Then it hit me. His car. My hands were shaking as I took the keys from the hook in the kitchen and crept into the garage. The air smelled like oil and dust. My fingers fumbled with the glove compartment, but when it popped open, there it was, wrapped in a clear plastic bag like evidence from a crime scene. Dad's smartwatch. The one I'd helped him set up last Christmas. My hands trembled as I peeled the plastic away. The screen lit up, 2% battery left. I opened the voice memo app, breath held, heart thudding. The last recording was dated the night before Dad's arrest. Then I heard his voice. Raymond just left my office. He's threatened to plant evidence if I don't destroy the audit report. I'm recording everything now. My breath caught. Then came Raymond's voice, smooth, cold, unmistakable. By morning, you'll be in handcuffs. I've already moved the money to your accounts. Maya doesn't have to know what you did. I'll take good care of her. There was a shuffle. Sounds of a struggle. Dad's voice, raised, panicked. Get off me. Raymond snarling. Give me that watch. Then static. And silence. The recording ended. I sat there frozen, the air in the garage suddenly too thick to breathe. Then I heard it. The creak of the garage door opening behind me. I turned slowly. Raymond stood there in the doorway, car keys in his hand. Stone cold sober. Eyes locked on me. Looking for something, kiddo? He asked, his voice calm but sharp, like a knife wrapped in velvet. My heart hammered against my ribs. I gripped the watch tighter, like it could protect me. He stepped forward, blocking the exit completely. His shadow stretched across the concrete floor as the motion sensor light flicked on behind him. The garage was filled with harsh, fluorescent light, casting long, jagged shadows across his face. I scrambled back, hitting the edge of the car. My hand shook as my thumb hovered over the emergency call button on my phone, the screen already lit. The other hand gripped Dad's watch like it was my lifeline. Raymond didn't speak. He just stepped forward again, slow and steady. Then he turned toward Dad's old toolbox on the workbench, his movements unhurried. I pressed myself against Mom's Honda, metal cold through my sweatshirt, while Raymond's fingertips drifted over the screwdrivers and wrenches. They stopped on the hammer handle. Mom will hear everything. I blurted, voice shrill and cracking. The recording, she'll hear what you said. Raymond's eyes flicked to mine, dark and calculating. Will she, kiddo? He murmured, thumb brushing the hammer's wooden grip. Before he could move, the neighbor's motion light flooded the window. We froze. Through the thin wall, I heard Mrs. Chang's trash bin scrape the sidewalk and her soft humming. Same old song at exactly 11 p.m. Any scream would punch right through the drywall to her porch. My gaze shot to the wall-mounted garage door opener, then to the watch clenched in my fist. 3 seconds, maybe. Evidence or escape. Raymond's breathing quickened, ragged, almost matching the panting desperation I'd just heard in Dad's recording. Instinct took the wheel. I yanked open the Honda's door, dove across the seat, and slammed it behind me. The locks thumped down a heartbeat before Raymond's hand left the hammer. He didn't rush, just paced to the interior door, plucking Dad's spare key from the hook like a bishop sliding across a chessboard. From the kitchen, Mom's voice floated out, sleepy and uncertain. "Everything okay out there?" "Just helping Jacqueline find her soccer cleat," Raymond called back, tone smooth as poured syrup. I swallowed hard. If I contradicted him, the watch was gone. If I echoed him, I was in on the lie. "Yeah, Mom," I forced out, loud enough to carry. "All good." Complicit. The word tasted like rust. Raymond stepped to the driver's side window. Even through the glass I saw his hand tremble as he tried the handle, cool charisma cracking at the edges. Right then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. "Jared. Hey, study group tomorrow. You finished the history chapter?" Normal life kept moving outside the garage like nothing was wrong. Mrs. Chang's porch light flicked off. A car drove by with music playing low. Somewhere, someone's dog barked. But I was still locked inside Mom's car, gripping the only proof that could destroy Raymond. Dad's smartwatch felt heavier now, like it knew what it carried. I fumbled to plug it into the USB port near the dash. 1% battery. The screen flickered, struggling. Come on, I whispered, panic making my fingers fumble as I dug through the center console for a charging cable. I found one, frayed but maybe enough. I jammed it in and hit the power button again. The watch blinked. Then black. No, please. A second later, the screen lit up again. Still alive. Then my elbow slammed into the steering wheel. Hunk. The sound ripped through the garage, sharp and violent. Within seconds, the door to the kitchen flew open. Mom stood there in her bathrobe, waist hastily tied, blinking into the light like she'd just stepped into someone else's life. "Jacqueline," she asked. "What's going on?" She looked at me, then at Raymond, who was just standing there, too still, too calm. That's when his phone buzzed in his hand. He glanced down at it, and something in his face shifted, like a mask slipping just an inch. Mom started talking, something about the custody evaluation tomorrow. "We need those forms signed, Raymond," she said, moving closer to him. "They said we need them to prove a stable home. For family court." I could barely hear her. My chest tightened, breath catching like it always did when panic came fast and hard. The same crushing weight I'd felt when Grandpa died 2 years ago. Mom saw it immediately, she always did. Her eyes softened. "Oh, honey," she said, starting toward the car. But Raymond's phone lit up again. He typed quickly, then held it up to the window. A screenshot. Dad's work credit card statement. Restaurants, client dinners. All legit. But the amounts so big. I knew exactly what Raymond was thinking. He could twist those numbers, make them look like fraud. I tried to transfer the recording from the watch to my phone, but an alert popped up. Blocked by parental controls. Of course. He had set those weeks ago. Somewhere, his phone must have buzzed again. A silent notification. He knew. He knew I was trying to save it. My own phone lit up with a new text. From Raymond. A screenshot of our family Spotify account. Dad's playlists. Jazz. Oldies. Movie scores. All the music he'd played on road trips and Saturday mornings. Raymond's message underneath. 24 hours until deletion. Payment info needed. He was dangling it in front of me like bait. A threat and a dare. By the time morning came, I hadn't slept. My hands were still trembling when I reached for Mom's coffee mug in the kitchen, trying to pretend everything was fine. It slipped. Crash. The mug shattered across the tile floor. Mom looked at my hands, still shaking, and then at the shadows under my eyes. I didn't say anything, but I didn't have to. I looked exactly like what Raymond wanted her to see. A strung-out, sleep-deprived teenager who was losing it. At school, Coach pulled me aside after practice. His voice was low, careful. "Jacqueline, can I talk to you for a second?" I nodded, already knowing what was coming. My cleats squished against the wet turf. "Raymond called me," Coach said, scratching the back of his neck. "He mentioned some things about your home situation. You know I'm a mandatory reporter, right?" I blinked. The words felt like ice down my spine. Raymond had just weaponized the school system against me. I stood there in my muddy cleats and realized I wasn't safe anywhere. By lunchtime, the whispers had started. I heard my name trail off when I passed a table. Girls got quiet mid-sentence. 3 teammates came up to me. "Hey," one of them said, not making eye contact. My mom said I can't sleep over at your place anymore. She just, She said it's not stable over there. Yeah, sorry. Another added quickly, as if being near me might make her unstable too. That unstable house. That was the phrase. Probably Raymond's exact words. I didn't eat inside. Couldn't. I took my tray out to the dumpsters near the loading dock, found a spot on the concrete away from the back stairwell where nobody would see me. Raymond's voice from that morning echoed in my head. Something about offshore accounts. He'd thrown it out like a threat. But suddenly it clicked. Wait. Those accounts matched the legal overseas client payment fund Dad had opened years ago, with Raymond's help. When the firm landed that big international contract, they both did the paperwork. Raymond had been there for everything. After school, Jared found me near the bike racks. His hands were in his hoodie pocket, face pinched with guilt. Hey, he said, shifting from foot to foot. So, my mom works at Raymond's firm. She needs him to write her a recommendation letter for my college apps. I just stared at him. He didn't have to finish. You don't have to say anything, he added quickly. It's just, can you maybe not, he trailed off, embarrassed. Don't drag us into this. That was the real message. That night, my phone buzzed. A cloud backup notification. I stared at it. I'd forgotten all about the autosync feature I'd set up on Dad's watch. I opened the app, fingers trembling. The last voice memo, it was there. The recording. The backup had worked. Just a small smile crept onto my lips. Relief. That tiny lift at the corners of my mouth. I didn't even realize I was doing it until I glanced up and saw the guidance counselor staring at me through the library window. She wrote something in her notebook. Later, I'd find out what it said. Inappropriate emotional response to father's imprisonment. My phone buzzed again. A message from Raymond. Just 2 words. 2 words that made my blood run cold. He knew this would end with one of us destroyed. The question was, which one? The next week blurred together like watercolors in the rain. Raymond started showing up at my parent-teacher conferences. Alone. He sat in the front row of Ms. Martinez's classroom like he belonged there. I've been dedicating myself fully to step-parenting during this difficult time, he told her, all soft-voiced and earnest, like the villain in a feel-good drama. Ms. Martinez, who used to smile every time she saw me in the hallway, practically gushed. She even showed him my creative writing journal, the one where I'd written about feeling trapped, about dreams where the walls closed in. Raymond didn't say anything at the time. He just nodded with quiet concern, his eyes flicking to me once, briefly. I could see it happening. He was tucking that away for later. Then the polygraph results came back. Mom passed. She truly believed Raymond had been helping Dad with taxes that night. I passed too. I said Raymond had been drinking at the office when the documents were filed. 2 truths. Both impossible, but somehow both real. And then someone, maybe from Raymond's camp, dug up my old text to Jared. I had vented about Dad being too strict about grades. Typical stuff. He acts like getting a B is a war crime. I typed once. Just normal teenage frustration. But in the custody evaluation, it was twisted into something else. Evidence of my resentment toward authority figures. At the bus stop, the little girl from next door tugged on my jacket sleeve. Her name was Sophie, 7 years old. She looked up at me with wide eyes and asked, "Why did your daddy steal money?" I froze. She smiled like it was a fairy tale mystery. "Mr. Raymond said he did it to help your mommy." Block party. Of course. Raymond had explained it to the neighborhood in terms simple enough for a second grader to understand and repeat. Late one night, I remembered something. The old nanny cam account. Mom had set it up when I was in preschool, cloud storage with automatic upload. I logged in and scrolled back. Weeks. Months. And then I found it. Raymond. In our living room. A full month before Dad's arrest. Standing in front of the mirror. Practicing his concerned expression. Repeating lines like, "I had no idea he was capable of that. And he must have been under a lot of pressure." He was rehearsing his lies. I tried to submit the video to family court. Attached the footage. Wrote a letter. Told the truth. The judge's clerk sent it back. Recordings submitted by a minor in custody proceedings are viewed as attempts to manipulate the case. I wanted to scream. I logged into Dad's old Amazon account. The password still worked. In the order history, I found them. 2 identical watches. One delivered to Dad. The other marked for delivery to Raymond's office. That second one never arrived. The order was canceled the day before Dad's arrest. On Raymond's LinkedIn page, I checked the timeline again. He said he was at a financial conference the week of the arrest. But the hotel selfies he posted? I zoomed in. The date stamp on the bedside clock didn't match. He'd lied. Even about that. Then there were the therapy sessions. Dr. Prasad, the court-approved therapist, chosen by Raymond. She nodded a lot. Took notes. Asked questions like, "Do you ever feel your stepfather misunderstands you?" I tried to explain, to show her what was happening without sounding unhinged. She wrote it all down. Later, I found out what she wrote in her report. a concerning fixation on her stepfather figure to the court. It was her legal obligation. Dr. Prasad told me gently, eyes soft, almost apologetic. I had to report it to the court. I didn't respond. What was I supposed to say? That I hadn't meant to look fixated? That telling the truth shouldn't feel like shouting into a locked room? I tried again at dinner. I set my phone against the fruit bowl, camera angled just right. But Raymond saw the reflection in the microwave door. He didn't scold me, didn't even flinch, just looked straight at me and smiled. Still slicing his chicken, he said in that fake warm tone, "Still trying, kiddo?" That word, kiddo, made my stomach twist every time he used it. Mom's doctor appointment ran over one afternoon. I had a choice, accept a ride from Raymond, or miss the custody hearing. So I sat in the passenger seat of his car, stiff and silent, watching him adjust the engraved watch on his wrist. The one I had picked out. The one we gave Dad when I was born. I remembered how Mom had said Raymond should have something to remember him by. Now it looked like a trophy. As we drove, Raymond made an offer. Casual, like he was offering me gum. "You can keep one," he said. I turned to him. "What?" "One recording. Of your father's voice," he said smoothly. "You pick." "That's my generosity." I stared at him, horrified. "One," he repeated, like this was some great gift. "If you drop all this nonsense." I refused. Of course I did. He didn't argue, just smiled and turned up the radio. Later, I saw the court mediator's notes. Jacqueline refused a chance to preserve her father's memory. Indicates preference for conflict over healing. Maybe prioritizing chaos over closure. Everything was unraveling. Dad's sister called in tears. "I'm so sorry, honey," she said. "I can't testify." Someone had filed an anonymous complaint with her HR department, accused her of spreading conspiracy theories. "I have kids," she said. "I can't afford to lose my job." She hung up sounding like she hated herself. Then the metadata on Dad's recording, March 15th, not the 16th like we thought. It didn't make sense. Until I remembered. Dad always set his devices one day ahead. After Mom's cancer scare, he said he never wanted to forget another appointment or anniversary. Ever again. But Raymond's lawyer had already latched onto it. Already spinning it. Calling it evidence tampering. I was looking through old files in the hallway cabinet when I found Mom's journal wedged between recipe books. There was an entry from 2 months before Dad's arrest. She'd written about how paranoid Dad was acting. About his obsession with Raymond's every move. About how worried she was for his mental health. My throat went dry, but I kept reading. The next entries changed everything. Dad hadn't been paranoid. He'd been documenting Raymond's financial irregularities, tracking patterns, building timelines, collecting records. Not for himself. Not to sue or expose, but to protect the other employees at the firm. He was trying to make sure no one else would take the fall for Raymond's crimes. Grandma showed up one Friday afternoon without warning. She hugged me tight, long enough for me to know she still saw me in all this. In the kitchen, while Mom was upstairs, she pressed a folded wad of bills into my hand. 200, she whispered, just in case you need something. Her eyes met mine, sharp, desperate. She wasn't asking questions. She was trying. But when Mom came in carrying laundry, Grandma's whole face changed. She stepped back, smoothing her sweater, and barely nodded when I thanked her. Later, she leaned in and whispered, "I can't lose her too, Jacqueline. I have to take her side. You understand, don't you?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to understand, but I did. I created a fake Instagram account that night, used an old picture of our neighbor's dog, and picked a username that sounded vaguely artsy. I followed Raymond's ex-girlfriend. Started with innocent stuff, commented on a sunset she posted, said I loved the hiking spot in another. Casual, harmless. Then I slid into her DMs. Just a few messages a week. Small talk. Building a connection without seeming desperate. At the pharmacy, I accidentally ran into Raymond's mother. She was picking up his prescriptions and didn't seem to recognize me. She was chatty. "Poor Raymond," she said, shaking her head. "Hasn't been sleeping right in months. The anxiety meds only help so much. They had to double his dose after that big office shakeup, remember?" I nodded, playing dumb. Dad's phone was still logged into our family iMac. I hadn't dared touch it in weeks. But now I had to look. His voice memo app had auto-synced just before the arrest. In the recently deleted folder, I found it. A full backup. Everything. Recordings. Notes. Dictations. Everything. Then Ellen reached out. Dad's old secretary. Through a lawyer. She wanted immunity first. Said Raymond had asked her to notarize backdated documents. Stuff that could bury him now. But her own fingerprints were all over it. She wouldn't talk without protection. I met with her lawyer the same day I was supposed to be at therapy with Dr. Prasad. Missed the session. Dr. Prasad flagged me as non-compliant. The custody recommendation dropped immediately. Then the lawyer called. Quiet, ashamed. She was withdrawing. Raymond threatened our firm's largest client. she said, voice low. They told me I'd jeopardize the entire portfolio if I didn't step away. I was sitting in Dad's favorite diner when she told me. Later that week, I confronted Raymond's assistant outside the office. She had seen things, I knew it. But we were at the diner again. The same elderly waitress who had served our family for years was watching us. She started clutching her chest. She went down hard. Someone called 911. The ambulance came. Raymond used it. Jacqueline's traumatizing people, he told school administration. She's unwell. She's lashing out. It's delusional. They believed him. The school suspended me. Said my emotional state was disruptive to the learning environment. They assigned a homeschool tutor. Raymond's neighbor. Of course he recommended her. Then he claimed my room needed a mold inspection. I was moved to the basement couch for my safety. He installed air quality monitors. Little black pods with blinking red lights. They blinked all night. They weren't just sensors. They were recording everything. I couldn't sleep. I started crying in the laundry room at night, hoping the machines didn't reach that far. One night, Mom found me there, sitting between piles of unfolded towels, shoulders shaking. She knelt beside me, took my hands. Her eyes were red. Jacqueline, she whispered, you have to stop. She was pleading. You have to let your father face his consequences in peace. Her voice cracked. I can't lose both of you, she said. You're killing me with this stress. Her hands trembled as she folded Raymond's shirts. My investigation into the firm's books triggered something I hadn't intended, an audit of Jared's mom's department. He texted me late that night. Just a photo. His mother, hunched over their kitchen table, face in her hands, crying. Because of me, Jared wrote. His next message came a few minutes later. They're talking about splitting up. The stress is too much. Legal bills, audit fees. I might lose the house. I stared at the screen for a long time. My thumb hovered over the reply box. But I didn't type anything. Because I wasn't going to stop. Even if Jared never spoke to me again. Even if he hated me forever. The truth mattered more than friendship. It had to. During a mandatory counseling session, the school counselor leaned in, her tone carefully neutral but deliberate. What if your dad really did take the money? The question sat there like smoke, light, but choking. I couldn't answer. Not right away. For the first time, a crack appeared in my certainty. Doubt slipped in like cold air through a door left ajar. That night, I told Mom the truth. I thought about recording Raymond without him knowing. I said, voice low. I almost did it. She was folding towels again, slowly, like each one weighed 100 pounds. But I didn't, I added. I thought it was wrong. I stopped myself. She looked at me. That look, half pity, half something I couldn't name. Not disappointment, not exactly. Something softer. Sadder. Sweetheart, she said gently, you're too young to be carrying all this. But she didn't deny it. Didn't argue Raymond's innocence. Later that week, I played the watch recording again. Not the end, the beginning. I let Dad's voice fill the room. In one part, he said my name. Then a pause. Then his voice, thick with guilt. She's been quieter. I thought it was just school. But I should have seen it. I should have asked. He knew. He knew I was being bullied, but he was too consumed with his investigation to step in. That broke me more than I expected. Then Raymond's lawyer filed an emergency motion. Claimed my mental state was too unstable for the original timeline. The hearing needed to be moved up. My lawyer? In Bermuda. Some pre-planned sabbatical. Totally unreachable. In court, I sat across from Raymond, ready to testify. I expected his usual smugness, the calm arrogance I'd come to hate. But there was something different this time. He looked at me, not with mockery, not even calculation. He looked hopeful, and that rattled me, because suddenly I saw it. He really wanted to be my father figure. In his mind, this entire warped mess had been some twisted path to a family. To replacing a man who'd missed dinners, skipped soccer games, and stayed too late at the office. Raymond had stepped in, not just to steal, but to be better. And when Dad rejected him, when he refused the mentorship, that's when the anger started. This had never been about money. It was about ego, about identity. And Dad threatened his carefully constructed image as the savior, the fixer, the man who stepped up when the other man fell. I had no choice now. I submitted the notes Dad had compiled, the ones he kept hidden, printed, coded, annotated. His observations of Raymond's Tinder activity, how he wasn't just swiping. He was studying. He had mapped out patterns, wives of employees, their birthdays, their favorite music, the wines they mentioned at company parties. And then Mom. He'd researched her college years, her sorority, her dorm building, her senior trip to Napa. It was all there. His entire approach to Mom. Planned like a marketing campaign. To match Raymond's tactics, I had to become calculating, too. No more wide-eyed idealism. No more assuming the truth would speak for itself. It wouldn't. I had to speak for it. So I went to visit his mother at the assisted living facility. I signed in under a fake name. Sat with her through bingo. Let her ramble about her glory days in theater club. Laughed at the same stories again and again. And finally, while sipping orange juice and rearranging her bingo chips, she let it slip. Raymond always was too proud to ask for help, she said, shaking her head. Had to borrow from my retirement account last year. Still hasn't paid it back. Said it was a temporary fix. I nodded and offered a sympathetic hum. She thought we were just having a nice chat. But it made sense now, why he was so desperate. Why he needed to wear my dad's life like a costume. The next day, I finally caught him in a lie. Something small. A client meeting he said was on a Friday, but the time-stamped Zoom invite said Thursday. I brought it up at dinner. Didn't you say the meeting with Alta Vista was Friday? I asked tone light. Raymond blinked. Yeah, Friday. I turned my phone so he could see the calendar invite on the screen. Pretty sure it was Thursday, I said. He stared at it too long, then gave a little laugh. Huh, must have been wrong. So much on my plate lately, you know. But I watched his fingers tense around his fork. He knew I'd caught him, and I'd let him know I knew. It should have felt like a win. Instead, I followed him hours later to the cemetery and watched from behind a tree as he collapsed at Dad's grave. He sobbed. So did I. Two people crying over the same headstone. One who destroyed everything, and one who was left to piece it all back together. His counterclaim gained traction quickly after that. In court, his lawyer painted me as a liability. Unstable. Delusional. A danger to the household. The judge didn't argue. Just wrote notes with a slow, heavy hand and said we'd need to hear from my mother next. Mom's testimony would decide everything. That night, Raymond's mother texted me. He drained my savings, too. But your crusade is hurting innocent people. Families depend on those jobs. I stared at the screen for a long time. It was a crusade. But I wasn't the one who made it necessary. Dad's old co-workers started reaching out in private. Some said they'd always suspected Raymond, but had families to feed. Others flat out denied it, defended Raymond. Said Dad had always been too intense. Nobody wanted to be next on Raymond's list. At the next hearing, the judge explained the burden of proof. Clear and convincing evidence, he said. Not speculation. Not assumptions. Not feelings. The recording wasn't enough. Could be fabricated. Could be out of context. I needed something else. Something to back it up. So I called Mr. Chong, Dad's oldest client. The one who still sent us holiday cards even after the arrest. He hesitated, but finally agreed. Just one look at the books. Just once. He called back the next day. There's a partial audit trail, he said. Buried, but there. Your father was onto something. Will you testify? I asked. He hesitated. I can't. My visa status, it's too risky. I didn't press. I thanked him. We hung up. But it gave me something. It also gave me the final puzzle piece. The trail explained why Dad never went public. Never shouted from the rooftops. Raymond had been recording Mom's therapy sessions. Back when she thought he was a friend. Before he became whatever this was. She'd talked to him about her breakdown after her father died. Her lowest moments. He used that to keep Dad quiet. Because if those recordings got out, Mom could be declared an unfit mother. Dad chose her safety over clearing his own name. And then, one night, while going through the Bluetooth logs in Dad's old car, I found it. Raymond's phone had connected to the system the night before the arrest. There was a recording of a call to Mom. Raymond had been planning his next moves while sitting in Dad's driver's seat. That's what the Bluetooth logs confirmed. He'd sat there like it belonged to him, adjusted the seat, connected his phone, called Mom. All of it logged, all of it there. He was setting the scene before it even happened. The evidence existed because Dad spent his last free days protecting us. Installing security systems. Upgrading the cameras. Double encrypting his work laptop. All while pretending to still believe Raymond was just a coworker, just a family friend. He knew. He knew what was coming. And he didn't run. Instead of clinging to his time with us, Dad chose justice. He stayed. He let himself be arrested, humiliated, all to shield Mom from what Raymond had on her. I hated him for that, once. For leaving me. For choosing a fight over his family. Now I understood. He wasn't choosing against us. He was choosing for us. The hard way. The right way. In court, I laid it all out. Everything. Mom's breakdown after her father's death, the one she'd whispered about only once, back when I was little, when she thought I was asleep. Raymond had recorded those whispers. Used them as leverage. Manipulated her guilt. Used it as a leash. I explained how he built entire dossiers on people, quietly collecting their flaws. A therapist's note here, a work reprimand there. Vulnerabilities turned into weapons. He'd weaponized fear. He'd built an empire on it. And then, his sworn notarized statement. I have never entered David Linscott's vehicle at any time. I didn't say a word when I handed the Bluetooth log to the court clerk. The judge read it silently. Raymond saw it from his seat. And I watched the blood drain from his face. He knew. It was over. Perjury on a federal document. There was no walking that back. I presented each file, each timeline, each piece of corroborating evidence with a numb steadiness. There was no victory, no flash of triumph, just exhaustion, a quiet kind. Mom didn't cry. She just stared at the floor as it all unraveled, realizing how much of her life had been based on someone else's script, someone else's manipulation. In the gallery, Raymond's supporters, the ones who had defended him for months, shifted away from him like oil separating from water. Nobody reached for his shoulder. Nobody looked him in the eye. The FBI reopened Dad's case by the end of the day. The judge's referral included terms like coercion, malicious prosecution, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The civil courtroom became a launchpad for a federal criminal trial. We all wore the toll on our bodies. My hair came out in clumps in the shower. Stress-induced alopecia, the doctor said. Raymond's hair had turned gray so fast it looked dyed. His face sagged, older than I'd ever seen it. Like guilt had gravity. Mom looked like someone who'd lived through a war. 10 years older, 10 months colder. The forensic accountants did the rest. What we couldn't see, they followed. The paper trails. The buried wires. The money that disappeared from pension funds and reappeared in shell companies. It went back 10 years. 10 years of manipulation, of skimming and laundering and rewiring other people's futures. That had been right. Too right. Ellen, the secretary who always seemed kind, took the stand with tears streaming down her face. I knew, she whispered. But my son has special needs. We needed the insurance. I couldn't afford a conscience. I believed her. The judge ordered psychiatric evaluations for all of us. Even me. Especially me. We were all deemed damaged now. Everyone had to be assessed. Trauma ripples through systems. It doesn't spare the truth tellers. The recordings? They held up. Despite Raymond's legal team clawing at chain of custody, despite their claims of manipulation and emotional instability, digital forensics authenticated every last file. Even Dad's date quirk, setting devices a day ahead to never miss an anniversary, was verified. It all held. Truth from broken sources is still truth. But what chilled me more than any audit trail was what came after. What slipped out when Raymond cracked in court. He talked about his old mentor. The one who died in a car accident 10 years ago. The same mentor who'd threatened to go public with embezzlement accusations. The crash happened the day after that confrontation. Nobody had ever connected the dots. Not until now. And then, through his dry, cracked lips, Raymond gave it away. Not just the actions, but the belief behind them. He truly believed he deserved it. Deserved the money. Deserved our family. Deserved our lives. It wasn't theft to him. It was correcting cosmic unfairness. That's what Raymond believed. Not theft. Not fraud. Just balance. As if our lives, my dad's life, were currency to settle some invisible debt. When the court asked me for a victim impact statement before sentencing, I wrote it at the kitchen table, where I used to do homework before everything went sideways. My fingers trembled, but the words came steady. I request maximum security. I read aloud in court. But with mental health treatment. Because Raymond isn't just cruel. He's sick. And sickness doesn't excuse what he did, but it does explain why he never stopped. I looked at the judge, then at Raymond. My dad would want him to get help. That's the kind of man he is. Dad squeezed my hand afterward. He'd been released on bail pending retrial. Just walking into the courtroom beside me, not behind bars, that alone made me want to collapse with relief. After everything, I gained temporary guardianship through Grandma. It was strange, signing papers that made me legally responsible for myself. But Mom needed time. She had entered intensive therapy. She didn't fight it anymore. She wanted healing more than control. We were a family now in fragments. Pieces scattered across zip codes and therapy schedules. No dinners at the same table. No family photos. Just check-in calls, shared calendars, and a shared goal, to find some version of peace. The community split like a cracked mirror. There were those who ignored the signs, teachers, neighbors, co-workers who turned away because Raymond smiled the right way. There were those who tried to help, but were shut out, like Mrs. Chong next door. I thanked her once, and she cried harder than I expected. There were those who enabled him, and those who suspected but stayed silent. Half the firm had known something was wrong. They just didn't want to be next. In therapy, Mom and I sat across from each other, knees touching, eyes guarded. But we talked. Really talked. I let him in. She whispered once. I let him use me. No, I said, voice shaking. He used you. That's different. We started over. Trust was slow, brittle, but it wasn't gone. She'd been a victim too, just like me. Raymond had made sure we blamed each other. That was his true cruelty, not just the crimes, but the way he turned us into shields and weapons. Restraining orders were issued. Financial restitution was ordered, though I doubted the families whose pensions he stole would ever see more than pennies on the dollar. But Dad's name was cleared. His license reinstated. His mugshot erased from the first page of Google. Still, it didn't feel like a win. More like crawling out of a collapsed building. Alive, but covered in dust and wreckage. 6 months later, I stood at a podium at a victim advocacy group. I looked out at faces that mirrored mine, exhausted, guarded, hungry for recognition. I talked about coercive control, about how predators don't need fists when they have access to shame and power, about how they isolate you, how they make you feel like you're choosing them, how they make you complicit in your own erasure. I said, healing isn't linear, and justice doesn't always feel like justice. Sometimes it's just survival with a structure. Dad was slowly rebuilding his practice. Mom was halfway through therapy. She sent me articles now, asked about boundaries, meant it when she asked how I was doing. Raymond was serving 25 to life, with mandatory psychiatric treatment. We weren't together, but we were healing. Not just surviving. Intentionally healing. Because justice wasn't revenge. It was about preventing the next predator from breaking another family. From stealing what we had to stitch back together. We carried both trauma and hope like twin scars, walking toward a life that Raymond had tried to steal. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.